San Juan at 6 p.m. May we rise for invocation? Mr. Arjona, can you lead us, sir?
Our heads, dear Lord, thank you for all the blessings you bestowed upon us. As we gather here today, we pray that this meeting is successful, productive, and blessed. Guide us, give us your wisdom concerning the issues that we face. We give you the glory for what we accomplished. In your name as always we pray. Amen.
Raise the flag for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, under public comments, we have Mr. Kevin Crosby.
First item on the agenda on the presentations, we have Hollis Rutledge and Associates Incorporated giving us a report on the grants. Mr. Hollis?
Mayor, members of the commission, thank you for the opportunity to come in before you. This is just an update of some of the activities that were generated over the past right at 12 months. And I think you... Testing, there we go. You should have, I will suppose, in your packets, the written report that we submitted to the city manager and to the council. If you wish to review that, it's self-explanatory on the various state and federal grants that we have applied for and continue to do so. But basically, attached to the written report is also a grant log that we put together for you to specifically identify the various grants that we've applied for, those that have been approved and those that are still pending, and those that have not been successful. And if you look at that log at the end of the report, you will see that the ratio of investment between the amount of payment received by HR Inc. versus what has been so far received in monetary value is almost a 10-to-1 ratio. That excludes, of course, any of the pending items that have been applied for that are still out, and we've not received word, but they should be coming in shortly. We're in constant mode of research. Basically, what we've been doing with the city manager and the department heads is we're in constant mode of research for state, federal, and foundation money. And then we share that with your city manager and department heads to decipher whether or not they want to pursue some of those grants. If they do, then we, of course, assemble and write the grant on behalf of the city. If awarded, we also then administer the grant. That is not included in the ratio of investment. This is strictly the monetary end of it. But that's a different value added as we administer any and all of the grants that you are receiving at the state and federal level for compliance in federal regulation and federal and state regulations, to make sure that at the end of the day, you do have a good performance that are required by state and federal agencies in accordance to their rules and regulations, as well as the fact that we want to make sure that you don't have any audit findings, because we also do a lot of the financial reporting that's required of some of these grants that you all receive. So having said that, if you all have any questions relative to the submittal of the report, we'll be glad to answer if I can at this time. But we are in a constant mode in applying for grants. It's something that's constantly in motion, and we're always looking for opportunities on behalf of the city to apply for some of these grants. So if you look at the written report as well as the grant log, you'll see we've identified specifically what has been awarded, what has been pending, and as I said, this is basically a moving objective to try to identify opportunities at the state, federal, and also at foundation level for and on behalf of the city.
Any questions for Mr. Rutledge?
Kind of appreciate it, Mr. Rutledge, but, it had been like 6 months, and we hadn't seen anything. And we kind of like a report, so that way our taxpayers can know that our investment as a consultant for the city is paying out.
Certainly.
And once you come and give a report here, and our audience.
Crystallizes, sure.
Can see it, and we can see it, that it's being afforded. We used to have a grant writer, and that position, we did not do away with it. We have it there pending. But it's nice when we can see what we're doing and what you're doing. And I know that some of these grants are repeated grants that we do, but some of them also are new grants. And hopefully you can continue looking for those grants where we can help all these departments. Whatever's out there, give us a shot in, with small grants or big grants, just to help our city. And if you can continue bringing those kind of reports, if it's quarterly or every 6 months, but quarterly would be great. If there's
Okay.
something new, fine. If there's nothing new, just to keep us in tap, what's going on.
Commissioner, that's a point well taken, and I will certainly arrange for that quarterly report before this council so that the citizens can also be informed. And I will arrange that with your city manager on a regular basis. But that's a point well taken. And also, just so you'll know that we, in some of these grants are reoccurring. There's no question about that. But at the end of the day, they're not necessarily guaranteed because it's based on performance. If your track record in performing and administering these grants are adequate or superior, well, obviously, we have a better chance in reoccurring grants that we can be able to demonstrate that we can and are capable of administering those grants. So, thank you, Commissioner. That's point well taken.
The other comment, Mr. Rutledge, as well, is I'm more than sure that you've heard this past Thursday we had an EOC preparation workshop, and I just want to see maybe you can just keep an eye out and see what's out there for the EOC. During this workshop, we did determine that obviously, we're planning to make a new city hall.
Correct.
And we decided, during the workshop that would be the main headquarters for the EOC. So if you can maybe look out for anything out there, and can you let Mr. Arjona know and see how we can get the ball going to try to get any type of funding for something like this?
Absolutely, no question about it. And it used to be that there was a lot of money out there that used to be around some years ago, but the law of diminishing returns is upon us, and we always have to be innovative in how we approach some of our projects and trying to match some state, federal, and even foundation money. Case in point is with the city of FAR and Mayor Ambrosio Hernandez with the Milpas Multi-Purpose Center. That was a very unique approach, but we were able to massage and make the appropriate presentations to the various funding sources to make that a reality. So definitely, that's well taken, and I will certainly take that into consideration and be visiting with your city manager on that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the good work you do for us, sir.
Thank you.
Any questions for?
If I may.
Go ahead.
Mr. Rutledge.
Yes,
The
sir.
process itself, you mentioned at the beginning of your presentation that you work with the directors and the city manager. Do the directors have to go to the city manager, or do they go directly to you?
Well, it depends. Once we identify a source, we normally work in tandem with your department head, such as, for instance, with your fire department. In fact, we were talking about a particular issue earlier, but we work in tandem with your department heads. Once there's an application in play, we work in tandem with those department heads in conjunction with your city manager.
But the initial when there's a grant that a department director wants to seek, do they have to go through the city manager to get to you, or do they?
Well,
go direct?
that's more of an internal policy,
And what has been the policy so far?
but so far it's worked. We work in tandem simultaneously.
Simultaneously?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is because I know the Keep San Juan Beautiful Board was interested in some grants, and for whatever reason, we have Mr. Castillo back there who's helping us with that grant.
Yes.
Because they didn't know what to follow.
Okay.
So that's why I'm asking. I don't know which route they're supposed to take. I thank you, Mr. Castillo, for helping out. But if we have somebody on staff, maybe he can work with you.
Certainly,
And help
certainly.
him out.
And I know Dr. Castillo real well. We're good friends.
The director gets with me, and when we talk about the grant, then I communicate with Mr. Rutledge, and then we'll get them together, so they can execute the grant.
The other question I have for you, Mr. Rutledge, you mentioned in your report the submitting reports regarding the Sorensen Park. What reports have you submitted, if I may ask?
I'm not privy to details because I have staff that does that, but these are periodic progress reports that have to be required and being submitted to the Parks and Wildlife. And they're normal working documents that they want to look at to see what the performance level has been relative to administering the grant itself.
Okay, so you keep them up to date with timelines?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I know
Absolutely.
this
That's
project
very
itself-
critical.
Right, this project is almost
Completed,
expired.
yes.
Not completed. We haven't even gotten that off the ground.
Yeah,
Okay, so we need to make sure that we get it
Yeah.
off the ground.
yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Any others? Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rutledge.
Mayor, members of the
Appreciate it.
council, thank you so much, and we'll be reporting back to you all at least on a quarterly basis. Thank you.
Thank you, yes, sir.
The next item on the presentation, we have presentation of departmental reports. Tonight we have the Department of Finance, Police Department, Municipal Court, Fire Department, and Department of Utilities. Every director is here available should you have any questions.
Any questions for,
If I may,
go ahead.
Mr. Salinas, CBI has not been on site for any work.
Yes, sir. CB&I was the subcontractor for Descon.
Okay.
They haven't been on site because of the pending litigation with the bond company and CB&I. And actually, we met today with the attorney. We're going to send him a letter to get a status on that settlement because this project is almost complete. In fact, like I mentioned at the last meeting, I totally believe the project should be finalized mid-August of this year. But we still have that one section that we still need to address with the guarantee. But that's still pending. That's why they haven't been on site. But we keep noting it on there so you all are aware that that's still a pending litigation with the surety and CB&I, with the guarantee.
Next question, sir. I know we've had concerns regarding lack of notice to the residents by our contractors that are doing work on the water lines. So what's the status on that? Have we fixed that? Because I
Yeah.
know.
Yes, sir. I personally had a call with the Isaac, the owner of the company, Texas Cordia, and I also spoke with Lidia Rodriguez, who is the project manager for this area for the company, and Mr. Ociel, who's one of the foremen, and advised them, because the incident that you're bringing to mind, they passed out the flyers 2 days before that incident, advising the community that the water was going to be down for certain days, and they failed to meet that deadline and didn't repass out the flyers after they had advised us that they had. So now what we're,
Off Regiment or the one off?
the one on 14th Street, sir.
14th.
Yeah, yeah, which is also affecting Regiment as well. Well, that whole area should have been
So
affected.
it's the same one.
It's the same one. So they were supposed to be done by that Monday afternoon, and it carried on into Tuesday, and they didn't advise the community the way they were supposed to. So now what I have is Mr. Ramirez, who is a supervisor for the distribution, is verifying that those notices go out.
Thank you. Last one. You're not off the hook yet. 117 Gonzalez Street. Mrs. Morin, I believe is her name.
Yes, sir.
Sewer problems. I don't know if it's been addressed. She's already sent, I think, 3 emails.
Yes,
that have
sir.
not been responded to.
We have gone, we've spoken to the gentleman at the house. Ms. Morin was not there. We went to
Okay.
Mr. Murillo, who is the supervisor for the collection system.
Right.
Did speak to him the second event that they had, because there's 2 events during the flood situation.
Right.
The first one, and then the second one that happened shortly a week after that.
In July, right.
So that's when we made contact. In fact, just yesterday again, we sent another gentleman to go, and there was nobody at the house. So we did find out there is a situation that we're addressing. There is a partial collapse underneath the expressway that we're working with a contractor to get authorization from TxDOT to be able to open that up and remove that.
You don't have an estimated to get that
We're hoping to get that here before the end of next week, sir.
next week? Thank you, sir.
No problem.
That's all I have.
Any other questions? No. Go ahead, sir. Mr. Arjona.
The next item under contractual resolutions, consider authorizing city manager to enter into interlocal cooperation act agreement between the city of San Juan and the Lower Rio Grande Valley Development Council, Valley Metro, for equipment services donation. Mr. Rene? Is it Rene or Chief? This is items that are surplus by Valley Metro, and because they're surplus through Valley Metro, we have an interest in some of these items, and the chief has contacted them, and they're ready available to us for our use. Chief?
That is correct, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor. Yes, they have donated 2 commercial buses for us for purposes of training. So, we're going to utilize them for that purpose only. So they've been working real hard to, they got some buses that they already going to salvage, and, instead of them, just destroying them, they offer it to us. We can train with them.
Any questions? No? Now, is there a motion to approve?
If I may, before you make the motion, looking at the agreement, at the last page, the signature is requiring for Palmira Cepeda as the interim city secretary to sign off. I think it needs to be corrected. I don't know if we have an interim right now, or if we're gonna list Diana Cavazos as the attesting person signature there, but it needs to be,
Make that change.
it needs to be corrected.
This is not going to be the original.
Right.
You're going to submit the,
We're approving with corrections to show Diana Cavazos.
is there a motion to approve?
So moved? Yes.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
The next one is consider authorizing city manager to declare Levy and Cosmo K-9 officers as salvage property. Chief?
Yes, we're already at, go ahead.
Chief, just on behalf of the police department, we're requesting the consideration to name Levy and Cosmo, K-9 officers, as salvage because of their failing health. We have letters from the veterinarians that recommend that they be retired, and due to their age. The police department is requesting that they be declared as salvage, and they're going to work to find them a suitable home. So,
That is correct. The canines already are at an age that they need to be retired, so they're
So-
no longer workable.
Let me ask you this. How do you find the proper homes for these?
We do have individuals that are interested, especially those ex-military individuals
Oh, okay.
that have PTSD. They train them to be service dogs for them.
Great.
So that's why we're looking to focus, especially people that have been in the canine business, protecting and taking care of canines.
So are these
so-
individuals all over the valley or just?
Yes, we get contacted and then by different individuals and also ex-canine handlers that would like to take care of a canine. So basically, we got to make sure that they're, have proper care for them at home and so forth, because they're still retired law enforcement officers. And we want to make sure that they are protected. We have retired already 2 of them. One is still with one of our officers. He has a retired canine with him. So these canines need to be protected and taken care of very well, so.
Sure. Is there any questions for Chief Gonzalez? If not, is there a motion to approve?
moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Next item is reconsideration of preliminary and final approval of the Minnesota Vegas Ranches Phase 1 subdivision being an 8.894 acre tract of land out of Lot 7, Block 47, Alamo Land and Sugar Company subdivision, located approximately a 1/2 mile east of Raul Longoria Road along the north side of Minnesota Road as requested by Quintanilla, Hitley and Associates Incorporated. As it reads, the subdivision was processed by the Planning and Zoning Commission on January the 19th, 2017, and by the City Commission on February 14, 2017. At the time, there was no variances that were requested. The applicant is proposing to subdivide the 8.894 acres into 38 residential lots. The subdivision was initially processed back in 2007, but was never completed. The subdivision is proposed to have North Alamo Water Supply Corporation for water in the city of San Juan for sewer services. Streets were constructed back in 2007 and were improved so that they meet today's city standards. A second phase of this subdivision is proposed to be developed in the future to the north of this property. The subdivision is almost complete and ready for recording, but the developer is asking for a variance to not have to establish a homeowners association as required when it was processed last year. The purpose of the homeowner association is for the HOA to properly maintain the required irrigation system and landscaping along the Minnesota right-of-way. During their meeting of the July 19, 2018, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the variance request.
So there will be some kind of draft that between the developer and you, right? As far as maintaining the.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, Mayor, it is in there, it's included
I didn't see it.
where the, where is it? I know I read it here.
Good afternoon,
It's
Mayor.
at page 54.
Go ahead, sir. Just state your name for
Yes,
the record.
Richard Garza,
Yes, sir.
BIC Realty and Garco Development.
Uh-huh.
Here to answer any questions that
Okay.
that you all may have.
Thank you, sir.
As Mr. Arjona did state earlier, we did go before the Planning and Zoning Commission last week, and we did receive approval for that. We basically are looking for a variance on the HOA because it's not a gated subdivision. It's the streets will be city-owned, and I know there was some concern about landscaping on the front end of it. And, you know, I can attest that our company has been doing subdivisions for almost 40 years now and developed many subdivisions and continue to maintain them in proper care and condition. You know, once the properties sell, then obviously the homeowners, you know, take over from there. But we have put up about $40,000 in escrow for fencing and landscaping along the front end of it. We've oversized, Mayor and Commissioners, the drainage system also. We currently have built it out, 38 lots. It's ready to go. The only thing that's left is to record the subdivision. Our plan is to hopefully sell this 38 lots and then continue on with the phase on the north end, which will be a total of 76 lots, which we feel will put about $8 million worth of taxable ad valorem taxation on the rolls. We've recently completed a subdivision in the neighboring city of Alamo, 186 lots, and we plan to do something very similar to this one as well, do the same type of entry-level type housing. I'm here to answer any questions that you all
What kind
have.
of value in the houses?
I'm sorry, sir?
Value in the houses?
Between 100 and 110,000 is the house that we plan to build there.
The property size again?
I'm sorry, sir?
The property size?
The property size, I believe, is 60 by 120, I believe.
About, I was gonna
About
say.
7,000 square feet approximately.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
good. Any other questions for Mr. Garza? Yep.
Just to point out what I was gonna say, that the developer was gonna be responsible for the maintenance of the improvements all the way to June 2020, as it reads on page 54. And then after that, property owners for lots 1 through 25, 25 through 30 will be responsible for the maintenance of the landscape from June 15, 2020 and forward. So once they take over, the property owners, they will maintain the landscaping up in the front. And that
Alrighty.
was the variance that was brought before the P&Z.
Which was approved.
Yes.
unanimously, Okay. Okay, there's no questions. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Garza.
The next item, consider entering into Libraries Connecting Texas Grant Reimbursement Contract between the City of San Juan Memorial Library and the Texas State Library and Archives Commission to provide a reimbursement subsidy to support the non-discounted portion for the San Juan Memorial Library E-rate funding request. Ms. Asim.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, Ms. Palacios, Mr.
Evening,
Arjona.
ma'am.
Henry Stokes is the library technology consultant for the Texas State Library and Archives Commission. On August 5th, 2017, he sent an email to all of the libraries that wanted to participate in Libraries Connecting Texas So I responded and I asked, I said, what is this about? So he sent me an email, excuse me, on August 30th, and he says that the Texas State Legislature recently appropriated funds specifically to TASLAC to help public libraries increase their internet speed over the next year. It says, if you're interested in having San Juan Memorial Library be considered for this project, please submit your information via this quick survey so we can secure your spot, and I'll follow up with you afterwards. So I did it right away. And this is a one-time subsidy for the part of the internet that we have to pay for the internet connection. So the TASLAC contacted E-Rate Central. It's a company that all they do is do E-Rate. And I've been attending their webinars because I received an email saying that we have to do, excuse me, a direct deposit authorization and a TIN application. But in one of the webinars, I can't remember his name, Art, the controller for TASLAC, said that if we already had in place an application and a direct deposit authorization, we didn't have to do one. We just have to do the MOU, the one that I'm presenting to you tonight, because we received the Family Place Libraries grant, so we had to do the process for the TINs and the direct deposit. So I just have to present the MOU that is being presented to you tonight.
Questions for Mrs. Sessing at this time? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next item, consider authorizing city manager to enter into master's intergovernmental cooperative purchasing agreement by and between the city of San Juan and National IPA for the purchasing of goods and services. This pretty much in essence is like another buy-board entity. This agreement will allow us for the city to purchase goods and services for, primarily for sanitation, street and alleys, and recycling at a more competitive rate.
Is there any questions for Mr. Arjona or
I'm ready to
Mr.
answer the
Salinas?
question.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you, sir.
No problem, sir. That could be a good thing.
Any questions at this time?
It's just like another buy board, yes, and right now is to, this way, there's another item on the agenda a little bit further, and this will allow us to get more competitive prices on that. In fact, it was recommended by the vendor that we become a partner. Technically, we're already a partner, but since the companies merge, we have to submit the application again, basically the membership agreement. That's what we're asking, to submit the membership.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
The next item, discussion and possible action authorizing city manager to enter into interlocal agreement by and between the city of San Juan and the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley for the preparation of the Texas Pollution Discharge Elimination System, stormwater permit application, and stormwater plan. Mr. Salinas?
Mayor, Commissioners, again, if you all recall, a few months ago, we signed the interlocal agreement with UTRGV, where I was appointed as the representative for the city on the Stormwater Task Force. This interlocal agreement is for them to be able to start the application process, which for the renewal of the permit that we currently have. The permit is a 5-year permit and needs to be renewed basically every 5 years. And since we're part of the task force, this will be our portion of the cost to put that permit and the plan together.
Any questions at this time for Mr. Salinas?
Yes, it's $6,500, if I remember correctly. It's noted in the agreement. 6,000? Yeah, 6,500, yeah. Oh, that might be 6,000, yes.
So it's what, 6,000?
6,000. If it's in the agreement, I thought it was 65, but it may be 6,000, yes.
Yeah, it's 6,000.
Yeah. And it is, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. .01, Section. Yes. Mhm. Got it? Okay. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item, consideration and approval of an ordinance authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of City of San Juan, Texas Waterworks and Sewer System Revenue Bonds, Series 2018, providing for the payment of the bonds together with certain currently outstanding previously issued bonds for a first lien on a pledge of the net revenues of the city's waterwork and sewer system, resolving other matters incident relating to the issuance payment, security, sale, and delivery of the bonds, including the approval of an application to the Texas Water Development Board authorizing the execution of a paying agent registrar agreement and an escrow agreement, complying with the representations, complying with the regulations promulgated by the Texas Water Development Board, and providing for an effective date. In essence, this proposed bond issue will finance the construction and improvements to the sludge dewatering facility, which will include the purchase of a belt filter press, a metal building, concrete paving, site work, pipeline work, electrical construction, and other necessary improvements to the city wastewater and treatment plant. These bonds will secure a loan from the Texas Water Development Board at a very favorable interest rates for over 30 years, which is the estimated useful life of the project. Our financial advisor, Mr. Chris Vela, is here that will provide a presentation on the financing, and our bond counsel is also here. Should there be any legal questions here? Mr. Salinas, I don't know if I left anything out.
Nope, you covered all three.
Okay.
Mr. Vela, do the presentation.
Thank you, David. Mayor, members of the Commission, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris Vela with Hilltop Securities, financial advisors to the city. As the city manager said and the utilities director reiterated, we went to the Water Development Board to try to secure funding for this particular component to the sewer plant back in November, and made the application in December, and went to the board in May, got approved. We came back to the city and presented the plan of finance, and last week we were provided with rates for the, for the bonds, and we have a plan of finance to go over very briefly with you. I don't know if they put it on the screen or not. Okay. Anyway, moving on to page number 2, the executive summary. City of San Juan, the city applied to the Texas Water Development Board for financial assistance on May the 3rd. The city will fund the following project, funded in the amount of $1,270,000 under the Clean Water State Revolving Fund to fund a wastewater treatment plant improvement project, installation of a belt filter press. The city will sell waterworks and sewer system revenue bonds, Series 18, to the Texas Water Development Board. The city will offer a pledge of a first lien on the net revenues of the waterworks and sewer system as security for the repayment of the bonds. The bonds are structured with level debt service payments. No utility rate impact or negative debt payment coverage implications are projected by this issuance. Municipal market on page 4 of the presentation. Under the current rate, the last time that we were here, when we presented in June, the current rate was a 427, so it went up to about a 434 in this market. Moving on to page 6. This is the final sources and uses of the monies. The par amount was $1,270,000. The project fund was $1,200,000. Clean water loan origination fee, this is a fee that is paid to the Water Development Board.
I got it.
The financial advisory fee, the bond counsel fee, the attorney general fee, the issuance cost for QSIPs for the registration of the bonds themselves that is required from a regulatory standpoint. Paying agent for the city sends its payments. The escrow agent is a structure that is required by the Water Development Board. When we close assuming approval, when we close, the monies are transferred to the escrow agent. The city, through the engineer, prepare outlay reports, and the escrow submitted to the Water Development Board. The Water Development Board approves them, submits them to the escrow agent. The escrow agent releases the monies and are transferred to the construction fund. Fiscal contingency, and then the summary of the statistics. The Clean Water Revolving Fund, Series 218, The subsidized interest rate, a 203. Final interest payment, 11219, first principal payment, I'm sorry, first interest payment, 11219, and first principal payment, 11219 as well. Final maturity is in 1/148, and the average annual debt service is 55,473. And then the coverage, that is the ratio of the total debt, total water and sewer debt to the net revenues, is 2.48 times. So that means that your net revenues cover your debt by 2.48 times, so almost 2.5 times. The next page, on page 7, is the actual cash flow. If you look at the column B, those are the net revenues that I was talking about. And then your outstanding senior lien, water and sewer debt service, your outstanding water and sewer supported by GO with a tax rate, your total outstanding debt, and then the actual 1,270,000 series, which is the one in the box. And you can see there the true interest cost of 203, the new estimated total debt service, the surplus cash flow after repayment of all the debt, and then the aggregate debt service coverage, and then the water and sewer revenue coverage, which I was referring to. The schedule of events on page 9. On 6/12, we presented the plan of finance that was approved by the City Commission, and the city directed the staff to move forward with funding of the TWD project. On July the 17th, we priced the series with the Water Development Board. All that means is that we got actual rates on the bonds from the Water Development Board. Tonight, the City Commission consider approval of the ordinance authorizing the issuance of the Series 18 bonds. Submit transcript of proceedings to the Attorney General on August the 2nd. Deadline to submit budget for the release of funds at closing, 7:30. Deadline to submit escrow release authorization on August the 6th. Deadline to submit vendor ID form on August the 10th. And then receive Attorney General approval of the bonds on August the 15th. Closing and delivery of funds to the escrow agent on the 23rd of August. And then, of course, the first principal and interest payments that we said previously on 1/1/18. If there's any questions, we'd be more than glad to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Vela?
Mayor, if I may, also with us tonight is Arnold, the bond counsel for the city, and he has some legal documents. If there are no questions for me, I'll turn it over to him.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. City Manager, Ms. City Attorney, for the record, my name is Arnoldo Cantu, bond counsel for the City of San Juan. I had a meeting with Mr. Salinas and Mr. Arjona earlier today in which I dropped off a package of about 20 contracts, which will need to be executed and delivered back to us by August 3rd at the latest, so that we can get those to the Attorney General. Obviously, Mr. Vela and Mr. Cruz, your financial advisor and engineer, have handled the financial and technical aspects. My side will be on the legal, getting this through the Attorney General process, and going back and forth with them in the review stage. So, again, if there's anything I can do, my line is always open. I'm available by email, and I'm happy to help or answer any questions you have.
What's the time frame when you start reviewing, like during the reviewing stage?
Well, typically, the fact that we're dealing with the Water Development Board and they need documents too kind of compresses the time frame. We need to get documents to the Attorney General's by August 3rd at the latest. So my goal would be to have those signature pages to the documents that I gave Mr. Arjona by then. That way we can give those to the Attorney General, because the Water Development Board is also going to need final documents by August 10th, right? So between August 3rd and the time we close on August 23rd, we'll be going back and forth with the Attorney General, discussing the legality of the documents and so forth, so that we get a final approving opinion from the Attorney General 8 days before.
All right.
Water Development Board will need that for us to close on the bonds.
Okay. Just make sure, Mr. Arjona, that we get that done by the 3rd, man. Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Cantu or Mr. Vela? No? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Next item, discussion and possible action authorizing city manager to execute budget amendment for retained earnings in the amount of $28,000 for the purchase of tires and 90-gallon containers. Mr. Salinas?
Mayor, Commission, again, coming to you all to ask for a budget amendment to purchase tires for the garbage trucks in sanitation department along with 500 90-gallon containers. We are currently out of 90-gallon containers and have been using some old recycled containers to just carry us through until we can get the new ones in. We did order 81, but we do have a waiting list of 100 people right now that are waiting for containers. The 500 containers will allow us to finish out the year before we can order off the next year's budget.
So, but you're just asking for 80-gallon containers right now?
No, we're asking for 500, but that's the size of the container, 90 gallons.
Okay.
That's how big the container is, 90-gallon container. We're asking for 500. The-
500?
Yeah, the 28,000 will cover the tires for the trucks. We're looking at tires for 23 different units, including garbage trucks and just regular units. But the biggest is the purchase of 500 90-gallon containers.
So you don't think we should order at least 1,000, or you're planning to get those other
That-
500
Yes,
on
once
the
the,
next?
once the budget is approved, the first order we're doing is 1,000-gallon containers.
Gotcha.
1,000 containers, 90-gallon containers to have on site.
Okay.
Yeah, on average, we're gonna lose about 10 to attrition, whether they break, they get run over, vandalism, whatever, about 10% of the 9,000 that we have or so. So we're losing about 900 containers a year, on average, just to attrition. And then, of course, right now, we have Garden Ridge Phase 1, Garden Ridge Phase 2. Of course, we just approved Minnesota Vegas, it's 38, and then they're planning to develop. And then people are starting to request 2 containers. So as we go, we need to replace. So the 500 should carry us to the end of September and give us enough time to order the additional 1,000 and bring them in. And that's why the master agreement that we just approved for the co-op agreement, because we'll be able to get a much better price with the larger number. In
Gotcha.
fact, we'll be saving about an average of $6 to $7 per container.
Okay. That's the only question I had for you, sir. Anybody else has questions for Mr.?
If I may,
Go ahead, sir.
you have the, do you have the attachment with you for Mr. Salinas?
The budget amendment,
The budget amendment that was submitted?
just let me open it up right quick. Yes, sir.
Okay, help me read this one, because it says original budget 30,000, where it
Yes.
comes to tires and tubes, correct?
Yes.
Amended budget 28.
Yes, sometime between the budget approved and now, there was a budget amendment done out of there. A budget adjustment. They moved money out of there into another line item. I did not research that. So they took out $2,000 out of there to put it in another line item to cover a cost.
And you don't know that?
I don't know where it was put. I can research it, but I did not research to see where it went.
Okay, the next column says 7,000, increase.
Yes, that's what I'm adding for the tires that I want to purchase,
You're adding it to the 28?
to the 28, yes.
But the proposal, the agenda item reads in the amount of 28 total, not 35.
You're absolutely correct.
So which one is it?
Yeah, there's a typo on that 28,000 for the machineries.
So
It's 28 total,
28
in
total,
total, yes,
not 35.
not 35.
Okay. And then the next item that's listed in that same amendment, we're not even considering that, correct?
Sorry?
The next,
Yes, the machinery, that's where we're using for the purchase of the containers. But they total the amount there, the 28,000, the increase, is not 28. So it's a total of 28, yeah,
Total
at the bottom. So
yeah,
minus,
because there's too many
yes,
numbers there.
correct.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved?
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Salinas.
The next item on the consent agenda, we have items A through F. Notice that you can pull any item to discuss, so you can make an adequate decision. If you'd like.
Is there anything that we need to pull out under consent agenda? or modify? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting has been adjourned at 6:51 PM. Thank you.